I just like this. I don't know why I like to go to this lo-fi soul music on YouTube.
Hmm. It's
I think
very relaxing.
I know. Like I think this is like our favorite one.
For sure.
It just got a vibe to it, especially when you just sitting back.
Chilling with your glass of wine.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. Like listening to it, I feel like we always get into like some of the best conversations.
Most definitely.
Yeah, we definitely get into like some of the best conversations. Uh, Shoot, just a few moments ago, what we were just talking about how what was we talking about? About how like some people can end up getting stuck in a loop of blaming others and not taking responsibility of their own actions.
Hmm.
I think that that is one of the killers out here in society when it comes down to people trying to navigate towards a healthy relationship. I mean,
Friendships, anything,
yeah,
really. Hmm.
yeah, because I mean, there's definitely some people out there who just really do not know how to take ownership of the things that they could have done better and any of the bad relationships that they've had. You know, we often, and I've been that person. I've been that person where I've blamed everybody but myself.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that it's important that you have to be able to look at yourself after all the pain, after all of the grievance. You have to be able to look past all of that and then ask yourself a key question.
What's that?
What could I have done to prevent this? That's what I had to learn. I had to learn that. I had to learn to ask myself that question. Okay, I know that they did this and I know that they did that. I know what hurt me,
Hmm.
but what could I have done better? How could I have talked to them differently to have prevented this situation from happening in the first place? Because you can't always put the blame on somebody else. There's always, you know how they always say, when you point a finger at somebody, you always got
And
three fingers pointing
pointing
right
back at
back at
you.
you.
Yeah.
You know, that is a true statement. When you try to point the blame on somebody else, you always have some part in that too. They weren't the only one that was the problem. Even if they were, what was it that you ignored that landed you in that situation? Because I guarantee it's probably a bunch of your friends that probably told you you shouldn't be dealing with this, or
Over and over again.
over and over again. You know, a bunch of people offering advice that you didn't listen to. You
Hmm.
know, whether it be your parents, whether it be your friends, whether it be your coworkers, whatever the case may be, I swear on everything I love, God gave you every single red flag to get your ass out of there.
And
But
you
you decided
stayed.
to ignore it. So it's again, you ask that question, what could I have done differently that would have helped me prevent myself from being in this pain that I feel today? Yeah. And that right there is taking ownership. That right there is, true growth. Because when you ask yourself that question, that's when you start to realize the defects within your own personality that you need to start fixing in order for you to get to a whole new reality.
Hmm.
Hmm. What you think about that? What's your take on it?
I definitely agree. I definitely have been guilty of ignoring the red flags in the beginning. And maybe they weren't even just red flags. They just had aspects about the person that didn't fit me. You know what I mean? Those same characteristics might be great for somebody else, but I knew from the beginning those characteristics that this person had would not fit me. And I think that a lot of times we still just tell ourselves, just give it a chance, just give it some time. For the most part, they have a lot of these other qualities that I really like, or they're really nice. And then later on, you end up kicking yourself in the face because those same characteristics are the things that you end up fighting with the person, through the whole relationship. So I think that's one aspect. And I think in terms of accountability, I definitely think that most people don't take accountability when it comes to relationships, especially once the relationship has ended. It's like, I tried to do this and this person I just wasn't good enough for them. Or, she did this, she said that, she had a bad attitude, never really looking at themselves and what they could have done differently.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this whole conversation, when we got into that, it stemmed
Mm-hmm.
off of the idea of the I don't need a man for nothing
Mm-hmm.
idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when we were talking about that, we kind of was going into how unrealistic that statement is for either
Right.
side. Or
On
when I
either
say
side.
that, I mean I want to go and say, like, on both sides of the fence,
Right.
male or female, anybody who say that they don't need they don't need a man or a woman for nothing, that's a complete and utter lie. Because if that was the case, I mean, you wouldn't work so hard to try to find a relationship that would fit you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I know a single person that, sits there and they wake up every day and they hope and pray to Jesus that I die alone.
Right. I don't know anyone either.
you know? So, just to even say that, you're trying desperately to convince yourself of a lie. Why would you do that? Even if you was to, even if you were to sit there and you was to say, "Oh, I don't need a man for nothing," right? Let's say you're a lesbian, and I say this with utmost respect because I don't need no problems with the LGBT community. You know what I'm saying? So I say this with utmost respect. I have love in my heart. But even if you're a lesbian and you say you don't need a man for nothing, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, do you not love your father? Do you not have a brother? Do you not have uncles? You know what I'm saying? Like, to have that statement, to say that statement is to shut down, you know, complete love out of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not need a man romantically, you know, but there's always a benefit for having a man in your life somehow. Even, like I said, even if you're a lesbian, if somebody was to come and to threaten your life of the opposite sex, would you not feel more comfortable having a man there with you? Whether it be a friend, a family member, they're backing you up.
Right.
You know, so I I challenge people to kind of get rid of those types of statements because all that does is create divisiveness, and that's the least of what we need nowadays. We need more unity. We need more coming togetherness, especially
Mm-hmm.
amongst black folk.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
You know,
And it seems like that has been a key thing between black men and black women, where it's like we're always fighting each other.
hmm
You know, I know you and I had the conversation before where it was like, I felt like sometimes it was hard dating because as a black woman, a lot of black men, they either would say like they were intimidated by you, or they might say, hey, you don't have enough drive, because they're looking at these other types of females. And so there was always like a narrative, it seems like, where you were fighting with your own just to be in a relationship too,
yeah. Let me say this too.
being compared to others.
Let me say this too. Black men, stop comparing our beautiful black women to these other races because here's what I would say to this, right? Every race every caliber of a woman is not going to, I don't care what you say, it's they're not going to, equate to one another. Every individual person is not going to equate to one another. So why
Right.
would you compare our women to any other race of women? I just don't get that. My whole thing is that there is beautiful aspects of our women that no other woman can, like no other race of woman will ever be able to replicate. But you want to tear them down. Why? You want to tear them down saying, "Oh, you don't got hair like this," or you don't come from money like this, or whatever the case may be, or you're not. I don't care what the statement could be, but I swear on everything, you guys gotta stop doing that. Because my whole thing is I've tasted a little bit of everything. You know, I've been all over the world. I've tasted a little bit of everything this world has to offer. And for me, I just felt like I kept running home.
And I can say the same thing. I've dated other nationalities, black men, white men, Spanish. Like, so I can definitely say the same thing. I think the main thing that I kept coming back to was that nobody understands me like somebody who looks like me. And that's just reality. Like, nobody can understand me having natural hair or being a double minority like somebody whose mom has the same characteristics that I have.
Hmm.
And we respect our men a lot who can embrace who we naturally are instead of trying to compare us to somebody else and
Hmm.
what they in their mind should be, or what the ideal woman is in their mind.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of just like men, right? How would you feel if your woman was to constantly badger you over and over again upside the head about the fact that you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you know you don't have all of these prestigious achievements and all of the different type of stuff or whatever, you don't have these higher level educations or whatever, and you know damn well that there's a very low number of men in our community that even ever achieves that.
Right.
So for her to sit there and compare you like that, or just to say those statements, you're gonna obviously be like, well, you obviously want a different type of man,
Hmm.
you know, because these are things that I'm probably never gonna have. I'm probably never gonna achieve. That doesn't feel good. That definitely, I know for a fact that men have very, very fragile egos. So to say something like that to a man, we'll be ready to jump ship. We'll be ready to leave. The type of strength that a woman has mentally and emotionally to even take that type of ridicule, that type of badgering, and still remain in your life and still try to fight for you over and over again, trying to make it work. I mean, that just goes to show you the type of, you know, leagues that they are ahead of us when it comes down to just mental progression, self awareness, emotional connection. You have to be more aware of the things that you say to your woman, because at the end of the day, if you didn't want it being said to you, you shouldn't let it come out of your lips.
Hmm.
And that's just a fact. I think that that's something that we've been taught since we were a child. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. But that also goes back to how we were talking about you know having that discernment, having self-awareness to know where you should be and where you shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, I was just talking to you before we started the video about like what I thought was one of my biggest downfalls when it came down to every bad relationship that I had been in.
Hmm.
When I sat back and I reflected on those, like on my relationships at one point, I sat there and I got through it being bitter, I got through it being mad, I got through it being upset and sad, And I finally just had nothing but time on my hands to reflect. And I asked myself, finally, what is the common denominator between me and all of these bad relationships? And my answer inevitably ended up becoming that every single one that I was ever in, it was a relationship that I had allowed myself to be pressured into. It wasn't anybody that I had chose to be with. And up until today, well, not today, but now, up until present day, you know, I can honestly say that the relationship that I'm in right now is the one and only relationship that I've ever been in that I actually chose to be in. Every other relationship before that, I had been, I felt guilty. I felt not that they, held my hand behind my back and was choking me and had a gun to my head and was like, you better be with me or else. But, me being a good hearted individual and in me wanting to treat people the way, I wanted to be treated and stuff like that or whatever, I pressured myself to be in those relationships when I did not necessarily know if I wanted to, you know? So when it comes down to, having these types of situations and you're sitting there as a man and you're saying these types of things to women, like, oh, well, you don't got this, like that person, or you don't got that like this person, or whatever the case may be, you got to sit back and you got to ask yourself as a man, why are you in this relationship in the first place? If this is how you felt,
Mm-hmm.
what could you have done to keep yourself from feeling this type of resentment in the first place?
Right. And that only breeds insecurity in the woman who you're with. So even if you don't choose to be with her down the line, now you created an insecure woman.
Exactly. And that right there don't do anything good for anybody. Insecure women, insecure men. First of all, we know how bad an insecure man can be.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't good. You
Mm-mm.
know,
Yeah.
that's irrational behavior at that point. But definitely when it comes down to insecure women, that kind of hits on it's a silent killer. For me, I think that you know when it comes down to the insecurities of women, that digs deeper into their livelihood less than their relationships, because they start to do things to their bodies. They start to do things to their hair. They start to do things that damages them over time based off of the things that a man will say or the way that men react to them or the way that that men are reacting to other women on social media, and that's damaging.
Especially if it's the man you're in a relationship with.
Hmm.
And you start to change all these things about yourself. It hits even harder when you hear the man who you're in a relationship with comparing you to other women, or you know I don't know, fantasizing over other women and making you feel like you have to be somebody who you're not. I think it hurts even more when it's coming from somebody who you love, because this is a person who you're trying to be their everything, and you would think that you're enough, and now this person is making you feel like you're not enough. So
Right.
I think even more so for a person who they're in a relationship with than just men in general, I think you have to be extremely careful what you say to the woman who you're in a relationship with.
Hmm. Now, with you saying that, if somebody was to be, and this is what I want to kind of gear as advice to any woman that is currently in a situation like that where she's dealing with a man who's treating her this way. Like, what would be your advice for that girl or that woman that's dealing with that right now?
So I would say, I would think about a time when maybe you weren't with that person and when you did feel at your most confident self. I think for me, I've had experiences like that, and just knowing that that's not every relationship, or I've never felt like that about myself before. And the common denominator of why I feel like that now is this person. I think helped me get out of situations like that.
Mm. So it's kind of like remembering
Who you
yourself at your
were.
highest moments.
Exactly. Hmm.
And would you say that you would want to like do a comparison like
Yeah, for
from
sure.
your then and now?
Is that, yeah, I would. I
Yeah.
would like say compare yourself. Like, okay, I never felt ashamed of wearing crop tops before, but suddenly now that I'm in this relationship, I'm ashamed of wearing anything that shows any skin, you know? Like I was never ashamed of looking at myself in the mirror before. I didn't think I was fat before, and I weigh the same now that I did when I got into the relationship with him. So what changed?
Mm. Yeah. So when you do that comparison, right? Because I think that that's great advice is to take yourself back to a moment before you were you know dealing with this type of misery. Now once they have made it clear to themselves that the result of them feeling this way is due to the things that they're going through in this relationship, like what
Mm-hmm.
would you feel like they need to do? Like what's the next steps after that?
I feel like, if it was you've been with this person and you really want to make it work with this person, then I would communicate, how you feel. Like, hey, there's some things that you say that really make me feel a little insecure, and gain some perspective, because maybe he's going to say, like, I didn't know that that made you feel insecure, or I didn't know that that hurt you, and I'm sorry that it hurt you. I promise, that's not something that I'm forcing on you. Or, okay, babe, well, if it's like your weight, for example, well, babe, you talk about your weight a lot yourself, and you talk about how you want to go to the gym. So I really thought that by me mentioning, hey, this is a nice body type, that maybe I can motivate you. Maybe I need to motivate you differently and just go with you to the gym. So I say, if you think that the person is genuinely, a good person, or at least, even if you don't know, communicate first and see how they respond. Because if he responds with love, then okay, maybe you could still be with this person. But if he responds like, you're just insecure, I don't know why that makes you feel this way, and he responds in anger, like you're attacking him, then
Gaslighting.
yeah, gaslighting, then that's the person who you let go of. Or, I was
Okay.
just playing with you and you just taking it too hard, and he's not acknowledging your feelings, and he can't validate your emotion as being real. Nah, let him go.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that that's solid advice. I think that that's solid advice, and I think that anybody that's watching this, especially my young women out there, uh, I think that that is solid advice for you to be able to kind of take and ingest and kind of use that as a tool towards navigating towards happiness. Because if you're dealing with that in your relationship right now, where you're feeling miserable, and I'm not even going to limit it to women,
Yeah.
men too, because
Yeah.
women do this to men too.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
Hmm.
uh, certainly has been done to me. I'm not going to get into it, too much right now. That'll be for another video. I promise you we'll get into it in another video. But it's definitely been done to me as a man. So for me, I just feel like any individual that's going through that, where somebody is making you feel less than your most incredible self, I think that what she told you as advice is a great starting point for you to regain the sense of self and to start working towards appreciating yourself like nobody else will. And that's the key at the end of the day. That's why we call ourselves Keys Key, because we want to drop these keys of
Hmm.
understanding, these
Hmm.
keys of advice, these keys of wisdom, so that you will be able to navigate these waters of love and find your true love. That
Hmm.
way, what was we just talking about? We was just talking about how,
Wonder
we was
why.
wondering, yeah, we was
Hmm.
wondering why there's a difference between, some people that will find themselves in bad relationships or whatever, but then eventually find the person for them that will be the person that they be with for the rest of their life, versus some people who will literally die alone. They will never find that person. They will never get it right. And they will ultimately die alone, you know? So that's the thing that that second option is what we want to prevent. We want to keep people from going down that second option unless that's what they truly want. But like we
Right.
said, I have never met anybody that literally
Right.
wakes up every day in the
I want
morning
to
and
die by
and they
myself.
they pray to Jesus and just be like, Jesus, please, if you love me, let me die by myself.
Don't send nobody this way. Please don't send anybody this way.
So we drop these keys of wisdom to help you navigate these waters of love and to, help the youth navigate these waters of love so that they don't have to go through the turmoil that we had to go through in order to find each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, this one is a short video. I think the last one was probably like an hour
Hour
and some
long.
change.
Probably was asleep by the time y'all got through the whole thing.
But we want to try to keep it short. That way we can do this a little bit more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm Keith. This is
Kiera.
and this is Keke's Key. And we hope that you hit the like button on this video, smash the subscribe and the notification bell if you support what we're out here trying to do. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next video. All right.
Love and light.